Hey, I'm Ty Davis.
Hey, I'm Claire Hall.
And this is Tulare Talks.
Welcome to Tulare Talks, the show where we strive to build a better community through meaningful conversation. I am your host, Joseph Rocha, and this show is sponsored by Eager Studios Music Lessons. If you have a child who loves to sing, listen to, or play music, visit eagerstudios.com to get them started on their musical journey. Eager Studios offers music lesson packages for kids 7+ to adults. Learn to sing, play piano, guitar, ukulele, drums, or a variety of band instruments, and have fun while doing so. Fill out the form on their website to schedule a free meet and greet and take a studio tour. Select Tulare Talks in the Where Did You Hear About Us section to let them know that we sent you. eagerstudios.com. Start your musical journey today. Thanks for tuning in today. Visit thisistulare.com to subscribe to the show. Hit the notification bell so you get all the alerts for all new shows. Or if you want to listen passively, you can download the show on any podcast app. On the show today, I am joined by Claire Hall and Ty Davis of Reaching Higher Tulare County. Guys, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Super glad to be here.
Yeah, a couple of things real quick just to get started. Can you guys say what your roles are in Reaching Higher, just to familiarize yourselves or the audience to yourselves?
Yeah, so I'm the executive director of Reaching Higher.
And I am the child resource advocate. Been working with Reaching Higher just about 6 months now.
Awesome. And just a quick little side note, are you guys local to Tulare or from far away? I just learned that you're not from here. So.
Yeah, I'm actually from Michigan. I moved here about 6 months ago, so getting acquainted to Tulare County, but loving it.
Yeah, and we are super glad that she came. Yeah, I'm born and raised in Tulare. Like we were talking about, I graduated from Tulare Union. Did COS and ASU online. So I've stayed here, and I've loved every minute of it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming out, and thanks for welcome to Tulare.
That's
awesome. How are you enjoying it so far?
Good. You know, we moved at the end of August. It was super hot and smoky, and so it's super pleasant winter compared to what I'm used to. You know, no snow days and frozen roads. So the weather's been great, but the people have been even better.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. So let's get right into it. For those who aren't familiar with your organization, like I wasn't until you guys reached out, and I did a lot of research, and I love what you guys do. Can you explain what your organization does and what it's all about, its mission, and the variety of programs you guys offer?
Yeah, so our mission is Reaching Higher is a faith-based collaborative organization that introduces hope to all kids. And so our vision is that all people would know the true hope of Jesus Christ, that families are strengthened, and that our communities are transformed. Normally I wouldn't read that, but we just went through a big kind of rebrand and a new change of our mission and vision because of the things that God has kind of brought into our lives as an organization. But Reaching Higher has been around for a long time. A lot of people haven't heard of it because it started off as just a ministry at Tulare Community Church. A bunch of women had a heart and a passion for the kids in the community. And about 15 years ago or so, started a bus ministry at Tulare Community Church, and they would just literally go around and pick kids up and bring them back to the church and do some tutoring with them, teach them some things, let them be a part of the programs that were happening already at the church with kids ministry and whatnot, and take them back after they fed them some food. And it kind of has morphed a bunch of times over its life, and from operating at Wilson School in the cafeteria to some of these ladies just having hearing a call from the Lord and being willing to go and asking some people in the neighborhood if they could use their driveway and set up some tables and just meet kids kind of where they're at already, do some tutoring, teach them about the Lord, again feed them some food and do that. And so I think about 7 years ago I came over from the Boys and Girls Club and absolutely loved what Reaching Higher was about. Again, big time Tularian, and so I wanted to be able to help my community, and so they said, hey, what does it look like to kind of make this a bigger thing, reach more people, cast a wider net, and since then we have grown to collaborate more with more churches in our community, to work with at a deeper level with our schools, and again, all of that is attributed to just a long time of Tulare Community Church being faithful and really sowing some good seeds in the community, including with the school system, so that there's that trust. And it's just been amazing to see how God has really kind of transformed this program. And so what started off as just an after-school program is then kind of morphed into what we call a campus sidekicks program, where we put volunteers in the classrooms of some of these schools where we create these partnerships. We call it a school adoption. And so, for example, TCC, Tulare Community Church, has adopted Roosevelt Elementary School, and it's just been a beautiful thing to see. So not only do we have volunteers in there serving, shoulder to shoulder with teachers, helping kids, making sure that no one is left behind, supporting those teachers who, have big classes and just a lot of need, but they're also doing fun events for these kids and for these families. So anything from a Christmas party to an Easter egg hunt to just providing a breakfast kind of buffet for the teachers in the middle of the year. And it's been awesome. And then as well as adding, a sports program. So we do a 7-on-7 program, which has been amazing to meet kids. We always see kids, from whether that be like the low income kid who really needs it, finding trouble, to just your normal everyday kid who, just doesn't have a place to go in the after school setting. But the kids that we weren't seeing were the athletes who are playing 3 sports and, mostly our high school kids and barely have the GPA to get by, but no life skills, nothing really to help prep them for what happens after high school. And so that's what we do through the 7-on-7 program. It's more than just football. It's teaching them how to be, responsible young men and letting them know that there is hope for their future, even outside of football. And it's icing on the cake if we find a kid and can help them, play after high school, but that's not the main reason. So that's what we've done. Those are the things we've added. And then most recently is adding Claire and her gifts and her love for families and for a community and for these family advocacy ministries. And so that's just been a crazy journey, and we'll get into that later. But it's a full slate, and we're happy to add all of these things and do these things for our community.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks for the nice overview. Sounds like you guys are fairly busy with a lot of different programs and stuff going on. Let's touch on Claire. You said your role was child resource advocate.
Yeah.
So what is it that you do, and how have you contributed to Reaching Higher Tulare in the 6 months that you've been here?
Yeah, so kind of everything Ty mentioned, the common theme is really figuring out how are we going to mobilize and equip our community to care for vulnerable kids. And so you might not know this, but in Tulare County, we have over 1,500 kids who are impacted by foster care every year. And we also, as a county, get about 7,000 reports of just child abuse and neglect. A lot of times those come from teachers. Those are the number one reporters and healthcare workers. So when you step back and just kind of look at Tulare County as a whole, we've got 30% of our kids living in poverty, and Reaching Higher is really working to care for and provide hope to a lot of those kids. Well, through a whole series of amazing God events, we had somebody from our church who ended up meeting Chris Tomlin, who's a famous Christian musician who had started a nonprofit called Angel Armies that was really meant to give a voice to vulnerable kids. And so through just a lot of different events, we in Tulare County ended up getting the opportunity to help kind of implement some of the programs to give voice to vulnerable kids. And Reaching Higher was doing that a lot through the after school programs and football programs, but we were introduced to a new tool actually called Care Portal that was going to help streamline and strategically mobilize and equip the churches and the organizations in our community to care for the vulnerable kids. So those 1,500 kids impacted by the foster care system, those 7,000 instances of reported abuse and neglect. And so what my job was to do is to begin to build this network of churches, organizations, individuals, and agencies who are all stakeholders in our community that care about vulnerable kids and give them a way to essentially get the resources to the people who need it. So a lot of times you'll find that churches especially want to help but don't necessarily know how. And Care Portal is essentially the tool that will help answer that question. So we've partnered with our county child welfare office, so the Department of Health and Human Services. They oversee child welfare. So there's about 170 different social workers in our county that every single day are uncovering tangible needs of kids and families. It might be a bed to make a foster placement. It might be cleaning off hazardous material in a yard so that kids can stay together. Whatever those needs are, there's not a great way to get those needs met. So our caseworkers are trained to input requests into Care Portal, and that alerts the local churches to be able to not just meet a physical need, but really offer a meaningful connection. So in my role, it's building that network of churches, agencies, organizations, all resources that will advocate for the child and care for them, so that every child has a home, that every child is cared for. And then beyond that too, it's really partnering and equipping and mobilizing churches to build up ministries that care for the foster and adopt situation in our county, which is one of great crisis. There's about 7 kids in the foster care system per every 1,000, which might not sound like a really big rate, but that rate is actually comparable to Los Angeles County. And so you might actually think like, oh, LA, they probably have a foster crisis. Well, we do too here in Tulare County. And the thought and the belief is that everybody can do something. We just need a really tangible way to do something.
Wow. Awesome. I did not know that. That is, when you really dig down into it, that's some staggering statistics there. Yeah. And we'll get into that in a little bit more detail on how people can support and get involved in the Care Portal and the foster care situation. So, but as a list of all the different programs and stuff that Reaching Higher offers, and let me know if I missed anything. After-school programs, campus sidekicks, school adoption, sports, and Care Portal. Did I miss anything in that list? Because I do want to get into each one specifically, because I think that all of these programs really have something unique to offer.
The campus sidekicks and school adoptions really are one and the same by adopting a school, and that kind of looks different in each case for sure. Perfect.
Awesome. So let's start with the after school, which seems that program was the birthing point of Reaching Higher and how everything started. So how did the after school program start? I know you mentioned a group of ladies going around busing kids. Where were they taking them to, back to the church to do after school programs? And then how did it grow and expand from there?
Yeah, so they would send the bus out, the church, Tulare Community Church bus out, pick them up, bring them back to Tulare Community Church, and start that program there. And then eventually it got too big to be there on the campus, and it was better for us to kind of meet them where they're at. And so Wilson Elementary was kind of the first school that was willing to allow our program on campus. And so the volunteers from Tulare Community Church met over at Wilson School, and that was cool, because I think it was just 2 years ago now that kindergarten class that started at Wilson graduated. Like, they went all the way through Reaching Higher, and one of them is now an intern at Tulare Community Church, going to COS, and just killing it. We have a couple other college students who were a part of that kindergarten class that made it all the way through. And so that's just super cool. But from there, that's when I came on, we started to partner with other churches. And so there was a partnership that had just started up before I got there, where they were using Wayside Church of the Nazarene, which is now just Tulare First Church of the Nazarene, over on Bardsley and Irwin Street. And they were meeting there. And again, just volunteers from Tulare Community Church, really, and Wayside was just graciously allowing the space to be used. And it got to the point where that group of volunteers from the church was so large, and they were saying, hey, like, there's more kids to serve. Where can we go? First Baptist had just built their new building right there at the west side of their campus. And so, and just hired a new youth pastor, approached him. The guy's name is Brian Yo. He's an awesome guy, big heart for the community, as well as just the church as a whole has a big heart for our community as well. And so said, hey, this is the program. Would you be willing to make some space available? And we'll take care of the volunteers, and what we really want to do is, if we're meeting with junior high kids, kind of just let them just funnel into the youth pastor here, right? Like, help you grow your ministry and plug the kids and their families in. And so, we started that site. And then Tulare Community Church bought a house on the west side of town, near the Meadow Apartments, or the 400s, depending on what you know them as, and which is a rough neighborhood, right? And so they bought this house, and we had another kind of site there where they were meeting, and now that site is Monday through Friday serving kids in the after-school setting, and had a site at the Methodist Church for a while. And then our most recent site would be another campus site at Mulcahy School before COVID shut down. We were on campus with Mulcahy, and our staff had actually gotten that to about 50 kids meeting there. And so, we've just kind of really been open to seeing it grow as far as numbers go. I mean, we want to be able to offer a really good program, and we understand that in Tulare there's probably 70 70 neighborhoods exactly like Meadow, and churches that could do this. And so we've had to be pretty strategic on how we expand and how we grow. But our after school program is a pretty simple program, basic as far as how we set it up. It's a 30-minute block of tutoring or high yield learning activities. And so if they have homework, we'll help them with that homework. If they're kind of already got that done or they breeze through it, then we like to encourage our volunteers and our staff to play checkers or chess, something that gets them thinking strategically, right? And then we do a 30-minute kind of just active time, and so play some games with them outside or something. I like to introduce sports or alternative sports, and so we'll play things like hockey or cricket or lacrosse, right? And so things that they won't get to play, later on, or things that they've never heard of. And so we use that as a tool because you're going to walk into an algebra class, never, hearing about algebra, not knowing where to start, right? And all of the different rules that go along with algebra. And it can be really easy to go, well, that's just dumb. I don't want to do that, right? But I can introduce cricket, and you can go, what is this? How do you play? And you'll learn it and figure out, I'm actually not too bad at cricket, right? And so we like to use that as a little sneaky way to say hey, this is going to be something you're going to do the rest of your life, whether it be through school or a new job or whatever it is. So we do that in our active kind of time, and then we do our life skills lesson. And so a lot of times, I'll say every time, it has some biblical tie to it. At some points in the school year, we are very direct, where we're just teaching stories out of the Bible. Other parts of the year, we're doing we're teaching Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace Jr. to kids.
Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram.
So we're doing that. We'll do things where we're teaching them just straight up character and leadership, because before we can see a true heart change, we have to get them to understand what it means to respect the volunteers or the staff that are there teaching you, and so just really shaping their character. We'll do a college and career exploration unit, and so it just kind of depends where we're at in the school year, what we're going to offer in that space, but it's always tied back to Scripture, and then we end every night with dinner. So that's just kind of what we do. Throughout the year, we'll do field trips, and so as a part of our after-school program. So one of, I think, the favorites for our kids is every Veterans Day, we do a paintball trip where we actually walk through every single war in our history and actually teach them. So it's kind of an educational thing. And so every year, we have them kind of just put one paintball in their gun, and then they kind of line up across the field with nothing to hide behind. And we say, ready, aim, fire. And they're like, wait, what is happening, right? And they're like, this is how it went, did you not see this in history class? And well, we just thought that's how they walked there. We didn't, it's like, oh no, this is it, ready, fire, right? And so we walk all the way through and teach them, and really get to the point where they're appreciating kind of what people have given for them, so they have this freedom to do this thing. And so I'd say that's the favorite. Every summer we take them water skiing, so a lot of them have never seen a boat, much less been on a boat and been to the lake. And so in a day we'll teach them how to ski, and that's again thanks to our volunteers and our people in the community are willing to donate that time and their services. And then every summer we'll take them to a summer camp. And that kind of is twofold because it happens at a college university. And so not only is it just a great, Christian summer camp, something positive for them to do during the summer, but it's also a chance for them to stay in the dorms, to see what it's like to be there, right? And so it really kills two birds with one stone. And again, all of that is funded by our partnering churches that we're collaborating with. They raise some money, including the people in the community raise some money, and the kids can go and do that. So it's an amazing, pretty in-depth after-school program. And then any kid that's been in our after-school program can apply for our scholarship. And so to date, I think we've given away $60,000 or $70,000. And so we take that out of our general budget, whatever we budget for the year, including our staff, and take 10% of that, and that goes towards a scholarship. And really just a way for us to say we're putting our money where our mouth is. We can't, meet with you and challenge you to do well in academics and pursue, a trade school, a college, or military, pathway after, and then not make, some means, available. Exactly. So that's been a part of what we do, and that's kind of all within the after school program. That is awesome. I love the life skills elements, because I feel like that's one thing that schools are really lacking. It's like, they'll teach you how to read and do math and all that stuff, but they won't teach you how to balance a checkbook or get out of debt and all that, the stuff that you need to know, like credit scores and stuff like that, like taxes, preparing taxes. Very awesome. And how do you reach out to these schools to get them on board to
get their kids on board to go to your program?
Yeah, so since the majority of kind of how we got started is really more grassroots and like neighborhood based, it's really just kind of been word of mouth, right? So like in most of those neighborhood sites, we would just kind of go door to door. That's how my staff and volunteers start off the day, is they know where the kids kind of live and knock on the door. Hey, you coming to Reaching Higher today? And sometimes it's like they don't want to come because they know I got to do my homework and, I'm going to be asked to do all these things. But it's just like an encouraging thing. And so they show up, and then it's word of mouth. They spread it amongst their friends. And then for the sites that are happening on campus, those are a lot easier to get kids because they already have kind of a wait list of kids who need an after school service. But also, because of the trust and because the educators know what we're offering, we can really work hand in hand. So sometimes it happens with a referral. They say, hey, I have a few kids who need something. And that's been more and more the case, I would say, in the last couple of years. We have a really good relationship built up with the Tulare City School District, with Mr. Porche and the Child Welfare Office and his whole team. And so anytime that there's kids who are in need of an after school service and what we have to provide, they literally would just call us direct, and say, hey, what's open, where can these kids go, and we'll just kind of plug them in. Since our program is completely free to every kid, we don't charge anything for that. It makes it an easy on-road, right? It's just a matter of can the kid get there. And so, yeah, it's all word of mouth, and it's all through these kind of relationships that we built over the years with our school district and our teachers. And so
awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. I love the program. Something that I wish I had growing up as a kid, more of that kind of our after school program back when I was going was like, all right, do your homework and then go play on a computer or whatever. But no, that's really neat that you guys are taking time with these kids and really empowering them and showing them new creative things. I really enjoy that. I think they enjoy it as well. Yeah. I think that's why we see it. You're seeing it grow, and the word of mouth is so powerful. Awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to get into the school adoption area because that's something that I'm really, really curious about. But first, we got to take a quick little break for ads and sponsorships. Just stick around, and we'll get back into this conversation with Reaching Higher Tulare County. Thank you. And we're back with our conversation with Reaching Higher, Ty and Claire. We're getting into we talked about the after school program. Now, this is one that we were talking earlier before we started rolling, and this is something that really perked my attention is your school adoption program. You mentioned that you work with a few schools. Roosevelt was the one that you guys partnered with, and you do events for their classes and teachers. Can you explain a little bit more about how that program works, how you partner up with these schools, and what exactly you guys do with the schools for the teachers, for the kids?
Yeah, so our Campus Sidekicks program, really this is something that I saw from organization in Fresno, every neighborhood partner. And so Artie Padilla is their director. I went and toured Fresno with him and kind of heard what he was doing. And this was kind of a segment of what they did, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. It's such a huge need. And so obviously our teachers, they have large class class sizes, asked of to do a lot, and there's a lot of need. And so one of the things that we have always felt is like the way that we can best serve is to collaborate, right? And so Reaching Higher can't, go out and adopt every single school. We can't serve every single kid in, the school population. But what we can do is we can pair them with churches who are, ready and willing to serve and to give their resources. And so, took what they were doing, called it something different, and Tulare Community Church was willing to do this early on, which was so awesome. And so we met with Mr. Felix, the principal at Roosevelt, and the pastor at Tulare Community Church, Steve Deist, and myself. And so the way it works is Reaching Higher is really just kind of the liaison between the church and the school, and that's done for some specific reasons. Trying to keep the separation of church and state, right? Like we're not ever gonna, step past those bounds, but this just helps it be a little more clear. And so we meet with them, kind of share what it is as far as how the adoption goes. And again, we're not saying, hey, we want Tulare Community Church to kind of take the lead on things at Roosevelt and the initiative on things. We want to hear from Roosevelt. What's your initiatives? What are you guys doing? How can we help you guys succeed? How can we help you guys, really have the culture that you're aiming for, on campus? And so we heard from them, and we were like, yeah, we have big class loads, and we really just could use some extra support. And so Reaching Higher takes care of the vetting. So we do the background check and the fingerprints for all the volunteers. We train them on what to do in the classroom, and then we pair a volunteer, which we call a campus sidekick, with a teacher on campus, and then they coordinate with the teacher and say, hey, I'm available these days from this time, and then they're in there in the classroom, and they're doing anything from grading spelling tests for them, or making copies, or hey, go read with Timmy in the corner because he's struggling a little bit, I did it for 1 year at Cypress School. And I specifically chose, because I'm a former athlete, I wanted to spend an hour in the classroom and an hour on recess. And so, I'm grading tests, doing all that stuff. And then at recess, I'm hanging out with all the kids, right? Playing all-time quarterback on the playground, getting to know everybody. And it's awesome. It was amazing. God used me and the teacher in some cool ways that year with a kid who lost his mom to cancer. And so it was just cool to also hey, church that I'm trying to pair you with, here's the situation. May or may not have a whole lot of Christmas gifts, and it's just a bummer of a Christmas. Obviously, the kid is down, lost his mom, right? And the church came through, bought a whole bunch of Christmas gifts, and just really made that season of his life a whole lot better than it could have been.
Wow.
And so again, that's exactly what this program is meant to do. It's meant to uplift the school, help them and their vision of their culture, and help assist those kids who may be falling behind or just struggling with some really hard things. And they just do some fun things too, right? Like the church does things really well, and we can do that while staying within the boundaries, not just talking about Jesus when we're not supposed to, right? And so that's what happens with the Christmas parties, for example. So there's not a big parent involvement at Roosevelt, and so teachers are struggling to make kind of Christmas parties happen, and our people know how to throw good parties at Tulare Community Church, and so they come in with all the goodies, everything that you need, and they literally take care of the party on the last day of school for in December, and it's just an amazing thing to see. The kids are happy, parents are happy, teachers are happy. Everybody just kind of ends that Christmas season really well. We do the Easter egg hunts for them, and again, just kind of a sweet spread for the teachers as a pick-me-up in the middle of the year. Alpine Vista is another one that Tulare First Assembly did a great job with. When Pastor Ryan Mitchell was here at Tulare First Assembly, he was there on campus, involved in their leadership class, just making a big impact. And then they saw the fruits of that. A lot of kids coming back to their after-school site, which is only a couple blocks away. And so that's what we want to see. We want to see, the churches, and if we can help play a role in that by collaborating, right? Like it doesn't have to be, it's not about us, but we want to collaborate, and we want to see kind of all of our schools, kind of lift. And so when the tide rises, right, all the ships rise. And so that's what we're really aiming for in the Campus Sidekicks program. And again, we're just hoping to see, more and more relationships be built with our churches, and help facilitate those kind of adoptions, if you will, in our community, and continue to serve kids.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was going to add too, this year obviously has looked super different because kids haven't been in school. And so Tulare Community Church, which I'm a part of as well, instead of being able to really adopt a classroom and go into there, every teacher got assigned somebody that was going to be their encourager throughout the year. And so I've actually had the opportunity to connect with a kindergarten teacher there. And, I'm a teacher by training. I taught 5th grade for a few years, so I know how just hard and taxing that is, and can only imagine how difficult this year has been. So just having somebody, even as a the teacher who's checking in, sending even a Starbucks card or lunch or, a little gift at Christmas just to really boost the teacher's morale too. That's become a really cool part of the Campus Sidekicks and a school adoption program, is really supporting the teacher on just like an emotional and personal level, and really some of the relationships that have been built between church members and teachers, just as a form of support kind of outside of the classroom.
Right. That's awesome. And I know a lot of a lot of teachers need that support, because there's a ton of kids and it's just one person, and just helping grade or help a student who's struggling, so that he's not distracting the
and
class,
just to be told you're doing a good job, just the affirmation that, like, teachers, we see you, we hear you, you are working so hard, and we're super grateful, so keep it up.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was about to ask how COVID had affected all this. I thank you for stepping on that and shedding some light on that. Very neat. How many schools right now are doing this program?
I would say we have 2 officially. I think Alpine Vista is still going strong. I think Ryan Mitchell is no longer with that. He moved to Texas, and I think is dearly missed. But I think they have some new people kind of step in, and then our staff, our site leader at First Assembly, Tammy Swanson, is awesome and does a great job keeping kind of tabs with the school. And so, but it's also been a really weird year with COVID, right? And so, we haven't been able to do as much. And so, we're hoping that this next school year we'll kind of be able to get back to normal. But yeah, I think we have those 2 schools that are involved. And then again, we're hoping to see more of our churches step up, collaborate, and adopt these schools.
Perfect. And if a church does want to adopt a school, what would the process like that look?
Yeah, reach out to us at Reaching Higher. You can do it through our website, Reaching Higher TC. You can email me directly at ty@reachinghighertc.com. Get in touch with Claire at the Downtown Dream. She's there all the time. It's probably where she lives, second home. But yeah, get in touch with us, and then we will set up a meeting where we first kind of hear from the church and what it is that you're looking for, and how much bandwidth do you have to really give to something like this? Because the last thing that we want to do is we're working with a lot of kids who have a lot of in and out in their life, right? And so we don't want to introduce people who are going to be mentors and leaders kind of in their life who are just going to kind of fall away because they just don't have the bandwidth. So we kind of vet that out a little bit, go through that training process. We cover, again, the fingerprinting and the fees that go with that for them, so that's not a burden on the church. And then set up a meeting with the principal of the school, and kind of go from there.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, because I'm assuming that this year coming back in is going to be a transitional year.
Yeah.
A lot of new regulations and everything. It's going to be difficult for teachers. So if anyone's looking for help or anything, you guys know where to reach out for sure. Cool. So let's move on to the sports real quick, and then we'll hit the care portal. Yeah. I'm really interested in the care portal, but also as a sports guy, I also love sports. So,
yeah.
What does your sports program look like, and how can kids get involved?
Yeah. So I played football at Union and love the sport of football, and I've been coaching youth football for a long time with the Tar Heels, and then got involved with this 7-on-7 program with a guy by the name of Chris Inchetta. So Chris Inchetta ran a gym in Visalia, but he was also kind of the trainer for Tulare Union back in its glory days. So think Zach Dials, Juan Dials, Dorsey, all those guys. Chris was their trainer, nice. Was their guy, right? And so Chris started this 7-on-7 team when 7-on-7 kind of boomed, and became kind of this big tournament circuit. And so that first year that he started the team, he asked me to coach, and I was just supposed to start off as just kind of this wide receiver coach or something, and then half of our staff took a job at Lindsay, so it just turned into me and Chris, right? And I was kind of thrown into the fire, and I loved every second of it. So we had a great team of kids that were all local, and so a lot of kids from Union, Mello Harris, Moria Edwards, Elijah Daly, a bunch of guys that they're going to hate me for not naming them all out, but we also had guys from Visalia, we had guys from Hanford, Lemoore, and even Exeter. It was just a really great group of kids from all in our area, and we meet with them. We do a practice, but at the end of every practice, we would pray with them or talk about sometimes I just gave a little mini sermon. And anyways, that first team was super successful. Went all the way down what they call the best of the West for passing down, if you're going to watch the NFL draft, you see Najee Harris and some of those guys. So we played against them, and Romello, and then they beat them, knocked them out of them. And this 5.59, core active 5.59 is what we were when we first started. actually placed third out of this huge tournament.
Wow.
And so our guys, obviously, our guy, we have lots of athletic talent here.
Yeah, for sure.
And so from there, Jeremiah Green, so Virgil's little brother, took over the gym, and he ran that 7-on-7 team for 1 year, and then he moved away. And so it kind of got to the point where I was like, man, like we have a great program here and infrastructure with Reaching Higher. I'd love to see this be even more faith-based, be even more about developing young men, so that they can be good husbands in the future, so they can be, good citizens in their community. And so I unfolded that into Reaching Higher. And so ever since then, we've been running it as a part of Reaching Higher. And again, collaborative aspect. And so at the end of every practice, I would invite a youth pastor from the community to come and just give them a talk. We've seen kids accept the Lord afterwards. But more than that, we see kids becoming better, young men. And then, it's been fun to see some of those kids go on and play at the college level. And so, we're getting ready to start that up again. April 11th, we'll have a junior high team starting off that. And then as soon as the high school football tackle season is over, we'll be running our high school team.
Awesome.
And we'll be playing. And all of the tournaments will be, the passing down tournaments will be in Fresno this year, which is nice. Normally, they're all the way up from LA to San Francisco. Some of them are on college campuses. And so it's a cool little thing to, again, get them to see what it's like to be on a college campus and doing that stuff. So we don't like promote that we're going to get you a scholarship or whatever, but we do help with recruiting when that is a pathway that's available to them. Yeah,
that's a good option for kids, especially those who can't afford to be like part of a just like a traveling team. I'm not even sure if there's traveling teams for football.
Yeah, the 7-on-7 travel teams are big right now. So.
Yeah. So I know that takes a lot of money, financial time, even like if you have parents who are working and stuff. So this is a nice outlet for them and making it more about than just the sport.
Yep.
Being good people, good citizens, developing young men. That's really powerful. Any plans in the future to expanding past just football, going into like baseball or basketball, soccer, other sports outlets?
Yeah, one of the things that we I've often thought of as having, if we're going to have an after school building, we're looking at right now having an after school facility. Right now we're again spread out all over the place, but we're looking at one building. Often thought of too having one kind of gym available just for our athletes who can come and again do the same similar thing, right? Come do their homework, right? Make sure that they're academically eligible, do some type of character, life skill lesson, and then they can train and work out and get ready. And so it really just kind of depends on people, right? Like if there are people out there in our community who like that's their thing, they love, basketball, they love softball, they love baseball, right? And they're, a Christian individual with who is all about the character and that side of things more than just the sport, and has good relationships with the kids, then, I don't think we'd turn them down. I think we want to make sure that these things are available. We've looked at that before. How can we, meet the girls too, whether that's soccer or softball, right? They need those opportunities too. But it really just comes down to partnership and someone wanting to do that. Like our 7-on-7 program, as much as like I'm involved in it from the top. Brent Beck is the one who actually runs that, and so he's the Tar Heels head coach, but he's also former owner at Sturgeon and Beck, and now with Stone. And so it's like partnerships like that, guys who love their community, have been in the community for a long time, who have great relationships built up with kids and trust, and they're just good people, right, who are now running that. So it's something that I can hand off to him, and I just get to kind of stop in and see the kids and maybe sometimes coach a little bit and then hit the road with them and travel. But it all starts with a person who loves their community, loves the kids, and has a vision too. And so
that's awesome. Yeah. So, that would be great. Yeah. And like you said, getting the girls involved with like softball or soccer or even basketball or something like that. I think that'd be neat. Awesome. Cool. So if you guys are interested, if anybody's interested in helping, volunteering for various sports programs, you guys know where to contact Ty and Reaching Higher. So let's get into the care portal, and then we'll have you guys plug in all of your stuff. I know people are probably dying to know how they can help and how they can support and volunteer. But I want to talk about the care portal because you mentioned a staggering number of 1,500 kids in foster care. That is a mind-blowing number for Tulare County. How does care portal work? And how does Reaching Higher help the foster care situation here in Tulare?
Yeah, so I'll start with kind of Reaching Higher's role in all of that. So like Ty had said, our mission really is to provide hope for kids and families in our community and strengthen families and transform our community. And so there's staggering statistics about kids who've been impacted by foster care that end up homeless or addicted to various drugs or have, just really bad situations. Thinking about kind of this idea of prevention and intervention and thinking about how do we provide hope for kids before any of those other things kind of come about. And so with Reaching Higher's mission of wrapping around the community and really mobilizing the community, like I think you've maybe picked up, Reaching Higher does a lot of the connecting. We're all about mobilizing people where they're at and what they're good at in the churches and organizations. We're a small organization. We're not doing all of that. We're just that connection piece. And so Care Portal is one tool that we get to use in order to help intervene and help prevent kids from even entering into foster care and strengthening families that are together before that's even something that might be an option. So what Care Portal is, it's an online tool that connects the needs of kids who are in the child welfare system or impacted by vulnerable situations with people who can help, and mainly that is the church and the faith-based community. So right now we're actually partnered with our Tulare County Child Welfare Office. So there's about 170 social workers in our county all across who are working, day in and day out, responding to emergency calls and stabilizing families and making foster placements, finding permanent homes for kids. And they're every day seeing needs of kids, needs for beds and clothing or dressers so their clothes aren't on the floor, just help getting a house cleaned. And those are all tangible needs that maybe a lot of us do just kind of take for granted. But when there are families who are in vulnerable situations, those aren't needs that they can necessarily meet themselves. And social workers do the best that they can to get those needs met, but a lot of times it might be relying on an email to another social worker who's, also looking for the same materials or filling out long paperwork to request funds to help provide those needs. And so Care Portal is just a tool where they can actually submit real-time vetted requests for vulnerable families that they are currently serving. And then that actually triggers an email to our local churches who are part of the Care Portal network. And they get an email saying, there's a family in your community. It's all by zip code. So the closer you are to where that zip code is, we want you to be able to respond. And so it'll include a little bit of the story, all confidential, and an opportunity to help, saying, hey, this family right now, we have one, they're looking for a bike. Their kid can't get to school. Mom doesn't have the transportation. So now that kids are going back to school, how can that child get to school? So a bicycle is a big need. And so a church was able to say, hey, we can help fund that bike. And it's not about just bringing an item. It's not a delivery service. It's really about meaningful connection. And really the ultimate belief is that there are more than enough people to help. In Tulare County, we actually have about 444 churches in our county. So imagine if even 10% of those churches, 40 churches, were all a part of this and there was a need that came through, there's localized help for that child and for that family. So the ultimate goal, again, isn't just providing an item, it's making a meaningful connection so that if that family's in a difficult situation currently or in the future, that they actually have a local church community that they can rely on or a new friend, somebody to call outside of the agency connection, because ultimately you want that case to be closed, right? So Care Portal's that tool. We get churches trained and signed up to be able to meet the needs. I work with our county agency to submit the needs, as well as smaller agencies, such as a foster placement agency or a care pregnancy crisis center. Anybody who is working with vulnerable kids, they might be already in the foster system, but we also want to prevent them from ever having to enter into the foster care system. And then there's the opportunity for not just churches, but the organizations in our community at large. I know you interviewed the Downtown Dream recently. Yeah. So I do use their co-working space. Shameless plug. Check it out. It's awesome. I'm not a big work from home kind of person, but what was really cool is they had an event recently and asked all their vendors to help just chip in some of their proceeds to help cover a Care Portal request. And so the Downtown Dream is actually set up as a community champion in Care Portal to help meet needs locally. And so there was a request that came through for bunk beds. And it was, a family in Visalia, so in our county locally, something had happened and they were in need of beds for their children. And bunk beds aren't cheap, it's like $600 for a new bunk beds and mattresses. But the Downtown Dream, some of their vendors, a salon, and then that salon was connected to a dairy farm. And so together they actually raised about $600 to help cover the cost of these beds. And then that money actually went through Care Portal to a local church that helped make that connection. So organizations in our community, we are always looking for ways that they can actually fund and sponsor tangible, real needs, not just putting money into a large pot, but actually funding a direct request. And then that would always go back through a church to help facilitate that need and offer that meaningful connection.
Neat. Awesome. So, trying to map out the streamlined process of this. So someone puts out a request onto Care Portal. The families themselves or the social worker?
So it is only the social workers and agencies, and that is just really to make sure that we know the requests that are coming in are vetted real-time needs that are necessary. So, a trained social worker, agency worker, caseworker, the ones that we're working with, like I said, right now, our county caseworkers, input a request onto Care Portal.
Cool. So they put in the request and that gets blasted out to all the community organizations who are partnered with.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So you would only get that email if you are a part of Care Portal, but actually anybody could go to careportal.org and look at open requests in Tulare County, and you could see what is available right now. But if you are a part of a church, like I said, the responses always go through a church. So anybody can look, anybody can respond, but then if you're not a part of a church, it'll actually connect it through a church, because Care Portal is a Christian-based organization, and it is really responding to the biblical call to care for the orphan, to love your neighbor. And so I can work with churches to actually respond to that biblical mandate and that call. And that is really why it goes back through the churches. It's really making the church return to what the church was called to do. The church really with a capital C, to care for the community and to step up and to be kind of that space to offer meaningful connection.
Perfect. Awesome. So anybody can look at requests and then get in contact with the church to fulfill that request.
Not even have to get into contact. Truly, you can just click yes, I can help, and there's a button that will actually let you fund items, so you can directly pay to help cover the cost of something. Right now, shameless plug, there is a need for a family who needs to clear off their property in order for the kids to stay with them. There's some hazardous material, and they are in need of a dumpster, but also volunteers, and so helping to fund a dumpster, something you don't really often think about, but that's a pretty big cost for a family who is in need. And so you could go on and actually just fund part of a request, so you chip in $50 or fund the whole thing. Or if you have an item, so like I said, there was a bike need that we're working on right now, and you could actually donate that item. But the system, it's all pretty automated, so if you click yes, I can help and provide or fund an item, you'll get an email triggering the rest of it.
That's awesome. I like how it's open to everybody. I was when I first heard, I thought you had to be an actual member of the church or the organization that was partnered with, but knowing that it's open to anybody, that makes it so much more powerful.
Yeah.
Almost like a GoFundMe, but specialized.
Crowdsourcing, but to keep a kid with a family.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so really anybody, we call them community responders. Anybody can be from the community, can sign up. Organizations themselves, I can actually, get set up so that they get the alerts and then can actually respond in real time. But no matter who you are, it will then filter back through a church. So if you're a part of a church or you're a church leader and you want just a tool to be able to do local missions in your church, Care Portal is a really simplified and great way to just be able to mobilize your congregation. So ultimately, we can grow by having more churches who are a part of it, so that when somebody from the community responds, there are more churches who can help facilitate that connection.
Perfect. Awesome. And we're going to get into how people can volunteer, support, sign up for one of your guys' programs in the next section. But we got to take a quick little break for ad sponsors, and we'll be right back with how you can get involved in Reaching Higher Tulare County. And we're back with the final part of our conversation with Claire and Ty, Reaching Higher Tulare County. I just wanted to ask, I've learned so much about your organization and your programs, I just want to ask any concrete stories or any inspiring motivational stories that you guys have experienced by working with kids or in the foster system or just in the after-school programs. Anything that stands out to you of the experience that they have when working through your organization or your programs?
I'll let Claire go first. She's had the most things happening in this COVID season with Care Portal.
Yeah. COVID hasn't stopped the need for help with kids who are impacted by foster care. So I'm going to share 2 super quick stories. We had a request come through Care Portal a few weeks ago. The purpose was to help prevent a child from entering foster care, right? And whenever you see that, you say, oh my gosh, like we want to keep this kid with their biological family. And it was really just a request for people to come help clear off a property. There was a lot of hazardous material that was dangerous for these young kids, but single mom, elderly grandfather, 3 kids, she didn't have the time or capacity to do that. So Pipeline Church and Visalia and Sunrise Community Church right here in downtown Tulare rallied together a team of about 20 people, went out there. The county had provided a dumpster and they spent the morning just cleaning this property, and just were able to connect with the kids and the mom and just show like, we care, we see you, we are here to support you. But ultimately what came out of that was that case with the county got closed and that those kids were able to stay with their family. They did not have to get taken into foster care. And that is what this work is about. It's the church being the church, and it's intervening and helping to prevent families from being broken up. But another story too, there are times where kids are taken from families, and that is at the best interest of the child, as hard as that is sometimes for us to believe and understand. But there was a request literally, I think, a day or 2 ago for help reunifying a biological family. And there's, a young mom who'd been doing all of that she could. She's got 3 kids, and one, her youngest, her infant, had been taken into foster care. And she'd done everything she needed to have her baby returned to her, but she was in need of a crib, like proper sleeping conditions for her baby. And that was something that was not in the budget for her. So a request went out to the church. We actually had a community responder up in Kingsburg, so just an individual who had a mini-sized crib that donated it to this cause, and then a church in our community was able to get the mattress and things. So now this baby gets to come home, gets to be reunified with the family, and the church gets to wrap around that mom. So like I said, COVID hasn't stopped the need of child welfare, and there are really tangible ways that everybody can do something, and those are just 2 stories of many, in just honestly 2 months of getting Care Portal up and running.
Yeah, that's nuts. I'm sure COVID has exacerbated.
Yeah, well, I talked about the reports of abuse and neglect, but because kids haven't been in school, the number of reports in our county from teachers is down by about 1,000. And that's not to say that there aren't kids who are, abused or neglected. And these are just the reports. They're not necessarily substantiated, but there are so many kids who are in vulnerable situations that we just don't even know about. So the more that the church can connect with those families and wrap around them and have programs and safe places like Reaching Higher and their after school programs, then we really also hope to see some of those numbers go down too.
Of course. Awesome. Ty, any stories?
Man, in my role, there's so many. I just play I got a front seat to God doing some cool things through staff and volunteers. I'll give you 2, one current and one past. The current, we were talking about at break. When COVID hit, it was obviously not what people expected, especially for students. And as it kind of drug out, and online schooling became the norm, and as jobs started opening up and parents had to go back, it obviously left a void. And so there were a lot of kids who didn't have a place to go to do online schooling. And so we got a call. I'll never forget, the school district called me and said, hey, we currently have about 12 homeless kids who don't have a place to go for online schooling. And so literally they're just kind of finding Wi-Fi where they can, sitting on the sidewalk, whether that's outside of Walmart or whatever, right? Like they're doing, their school when they can, if they can, and said, hey, do you have anything? Like, where can we go? And we talked with our church at Tulare Community Church and said, hey, what if we use the space here, and we'll provide a Reaching Higher staff member to kind of sit with them. And so what started off with that kind of group really grew, to not just the homeless kids, but kids who are with single parents, and parents had to go work, and so they're being left alone, and or kids who are living with a grandparent who doesn't know how to help their kid on Zoom and online and all that stuff. And so what started with just kind of 3 kids meeting that first day we opened grew to 30. And we were able to provide that service and kind of just assist our school system. And to the point when like, hey, we're going back, and they were able to go back, and it was just exactly what we're aiming to do, right? Like the church is like, hey, well, we have a space, and then we had enough funding given to us by our local donors to be able to pay for a staff member to hang out with these kids. And that's exactly what we're
awesome.
hoping for. Past one, we had a student. She was attending our after school site for quite a while, dealing with a lot. Her mom and dad had been divorced and separated. Mom was homeless and kind of walking the streets. Every once in a while, she'd even see her mom kind of at a neighbor's house, sleeping in like the doghouse, literally. So it was super kind of embarrassing for her and just hard to deal with. The dad had a DUI and had busted up back, and so really what he did to kind of cope with his pain and not being able to work and provide was drink a lot. And so she would come like to the Reaching Higher after school program. That was kind of her outlet, her safe space. And one summer camp, she kind of just opened up and shared kind of what her home life was like, and said, I'm not complaining about it. Like, I love, my parents, but, I'm praying that God would change, their lives, change their heart. And so that was kind of her prayer every single week. And all of a sudden, she comes to our site, and usually with kind of a gloomy face with a bright smile, and said, hey, my dad is interested and wants to go to church and wants to know more about the Lord. And so long story short, she shared with her dad that she had been going to Reaching Higher and praying, for him to kind of turn his life around, and that kind of like was the kick that he needed. And and so he gave his life to the Lord, stopped drinking, quit cold turkey, started coming and meeting with a kind of a support group that was happening for adults at the Meadow House, and is now working full time, doing ministry even at the Lighthouse. Goes to church every Sunday, and we get to see him. And the family unit is just like it's amazing to see the turnaround.
That is awesome.
And it's all because there was a safe place for her to go. There were supportive mentors who were there to kind of be with her. There was a space for her to go during the summer and kind of be encouraged and challenged to like, hey, don't just sit in it. Like, what can you do about it? And started to pray about it. And God has just has worked through it. So
that is a powerful story.
Yeah, lots of stories. Those are two.
Yeah, that's a great one to end this interview on, this conversation on. I am just blown away from an after school busing program where some women would pick up kids and take them in for after school program to everything that you guys are doing now. That is. I can't even put it into words. Like you guys are making a direct impact in people's lives. And I'm sure many people listening to this or watching this really want to support or are interested in learning how to support and be a part of this and volunteer. How would someone or an organization, how do they contact you, or how do they get involved in these various programs? I'll let you guys shamelessly plug every single thing and every program, every which way to follow, keep up, and get in touch with you.
Yeah, I got to say, this would not be possible if it wasn't for our volunteers. Like, we have amazing volunteers who give up their own time and their resources to serve kids. On top of that, we have a great staff team, Claire included, who make all of this really happen behind the scenes. And so it's a joy for me to just be able to kind of paint a picture and say, hey, this is where I feel like we should go. And then they really make that happen. So, but it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for them and our churches who partner with us, who collaborate with us, who say, hey, this is something that's important to us. We're going to add Reaching Higher to our list of things that we do and we represent, we support. But yeah, we're also funded by the community. Claire's, part of what we're doing, and then that whole thing is the only kind of grant that we've ever gotten, or we've really ever seeked out, and we didn't even seek it out. God just kind of threw it at us, right? But we're really supported by our churches and our community, and so the best way to get involved, the easiest way is to pray for us. Pray for the ministry, pray for what's happening in our community. Second way is if you want to give your time or your resources, you can reach out to us at our website, reachinghighertc.com, and just contact us there, or emailed me directly, ty@reachinghighertc.com, and let us know if you want to serve, if there's you have a gift. I always tell people, if you have a hobby, right? You like podcasting and you want to come teach some kids how to podcast, give me an hour of your day a month, and I'll help you. And kids are just eager to have, somebody come in and show that they have worth and there's hope. And you never know, like you might help spark something in a kid who might be the next great, podcaster. Yeah. So if you have a hobby and you want to share that with kids who could use it, it could be as simple as that. Or if you want to provide a meal, right? Like, again, we feed kids dinner after all of our sites. So if you want to drop off some pizzas, some hot pizzas, you can do that for us. Or if you want to serve, more directly as a volunteer, you can do that too. And then if you want to give, you can give either online at our website, or we put on a couple of events throughout the year, whether that's our dinner auction, that's our big one, or a Reaching Higher golf tournament. You can get involved in that where you can have some fun and support some great things happening. And then Claire will tell you all about how to get involved with Care Portal.
Yeah, well, I was going to say social media too, Reaching Higher TC, so TC for Tulare County on Instagram and Facebook. We'll keep you up to date, not just on what we're doing, but the stories of impact. Yep. So some of the stories you just heard here, you can see those more on our social media. And like Ty said, our website, reachinghighertc.com. If you look under what we do, Care Portal, that will really give everybody kind of, whether you're a church, if you're an agency leader, you're an individual or a business leader, to ways to get involved. So again, signing up to be able to meet requests, to be alerted of requests, and to help funding and sponsoring requests via Care Portal. And ultimately, partnering and mobilizing our local community, whether you are a church, an individual, or a business, to come around vulnerable kids, because we ultimately want to provide hope to everybody, hope to all kids, and we can't do that just Ty and I. It really does rely on the community.
And thank you for what you're doing. This is awesome. This is a brilliant idea. I love what you're about here, trying to spread good news in Tulare. We don't always get the best of news that spreads, right? And so, these positive things and you shining a light on what's happening is super helpful. So thanks for putting this together.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to come meet with me. Ty, I probably wasn't sure that you would even make it. Last minute
glad
thing.
I did.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys coming down. And if you guys want to stay in the conversation, I'm talking to the audience, I'm talking to you guys, facebook.com/thisistulare is where we're going to post all of this information stuff. Website, thisistulare.com, where we update you guys on all future talks that we'll have. So stay in the community, or stay in the conversation, join the community. We have a community Facebook group, This is Tulare as well, where it's all open, all positive, conversation and stuff like that. So thank you guys again so much.
Thank you for
Ty
having
and
us.
Claire. We like to end every interview with a quote that kind of ties into the theme. This one really did. Today's community quote is by Booker T. Washington, which reads, "Those who are the happiest are those who do most for others." And I believe you guys are doing a ton for others. So let's go forward with that in mind today. How can we as a community go forward and help those who are in need, give something to those in need, even something that seems completely insignificant to yourself in the moment can mean the world to somebody else. So that's the challenge out there. Thanks you guys for being an exemplary part of that challenge and that quote. And then to just wrap everything up, I've been Joseph Rocha. Thank you guys for sitting and watching us, and this has been Tulare Talks. Catch you guys next time.